The integral relationship model mainly focuses on the learning, growing, and awakening part in these 14 elements, which is then broken down in our 26-week training into 26 modules. And where we touch on psychological issues a little bit throughout, but mainly at the fear-shame downward spiral, at the anima-animus complex, at attachment styles, and the unconscious, that's 2 sessions, and a little bit on personality disorders. But it's all more analytic, I would say, to see if there are any symptoms, but we don't have an inherent process than for healing. And the NARM is mainly focused on healing complex developmental childhood trauma and to restore connection to self and others and to feel fully alive. And they have this NARM healing cycle that we will cover in a few weeks in detail. But in brief, on the left side is basically just to come back to self-regulation when your nervous system gets triggered. Then you go into a fight, flight, freeze response. And in any relation, but we would say, we want to mainly focus on if you're in a romantic relationship or dating, right? When you're in a one-on-one situation with another person. So instead of acting out, we practice to connect with our body and with our feelings and to regulate our nervous system. And then we're going to have 5 sessions. So that starts next week on the adaptive survival styles. And then we do an inquiry into identity, and that we do in the integral relationship training as well. So that's the same with the false identity. And they also have these primary and secondary emotional reactions that we're working with that we will look into. And then we look into these shame and pride-based identifications and how we can disidentify. That's a big subject for me, right? Of not splitting off or denying or repressing or spiritually bypassing, but disidentify to create a subject-object relationship. So we do that in the regular integral relationship training as well. And then as we do that, self-hatred and judgment diminishes. We reconnect with our core needs and capacities and restore connection and aliveness. So that's the NARM healing cycle. And those of you who know the integral relationship model fairly well, they can already see how this really complements the integral relationship model. So here are a few things that show how NARM is different from other clinical approaches, which are not invalidated, but NARM just takes a different approach. And again, you will see how this is much closer to the integral relationship approach. So it's not historically focused, but very present moment focused. Tolle is one of their inspirations. So this whole idea of being present in the moment. They focus on adaptations to trauma and not the trauma itself, right? But how does that affect people in the moment? It's not regressive. It's focused on the here and now. It's containment oriented and not cathartic. When some emotions come up, we're just working in NARM on containing them and not digging around where does that really come from, because they say that just reinforces the old trauma instead of healing it. And it's resource oriented. For them, agency is very important, that we can train ourselves to have a choice how we respond to whatever is present in the moment and learn to make different choices once we feel what's going on in our body. It's inquiry driven and curiosity based, right? So it always has a lot of questions for the client. And we will also talk about that when we get to the 4 pillars of the NARM concept of training. It's not behavioral focused, right? So it's not CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? To kind of change your mind and change your behavior, but it looks where is the disconnected and not feeling alive kind of behavior coming from? What is the state, right? And Ken Wilber, of course, in the AQUIL model has the states as one of the 5 elements. And so it's what is your internal state, emotional state right now. It's not focused on symptom reduction in a way, but focused on shifting underlying patterns that are driving the symptoms. And that's our false identity, our false beliefs about ourselves. It is client-driven, with the practitioner providing new opportunities for exploration. And so there was already curiosity. One thing that I feel the integral model is about, or the integral stage is about, is that it shifts from judgment to curiosity. Right? So integral people are inherently curious because we want to know from what level is a person coming from, what is their state, what is their stage, from what quadrant are they looking at a certain situation, right? What is their type? So we are this curiosity focused. And I added this one because this is really something that one of the biggest things that I took away from NARM for myself is not to ask what is wrong with this person, right? We say so quickly, what the hell is wrong with you? But to shift that to what happened to you, right? Because we have not chosen our parents, or some New Agers think they thought, and if you think you did, congratulations, right? And we didn't usually choose what happened to us in our childhood in relating to our parents. So we're all a product of our genes and our specifically early child environment and our cultural conditioning. And these people who have been born into Turkey or Thailand or any other place in the world would be totally different if they would have been born into a different country or different continent. Right? So we're a product of our environment. And so here is something that Ish and I created, which I really like, is that we're now integrating this NARM healing cycle with elements of the integral model. And then when we do our next training in November, in each of the modules, we will integrate elements of NARM. The one thing I learned through the NARM training is that there is two very broad categories of trauma. The first one most people are familiar with is post-traumatic stress disorder, abbreviated PTSD, and it's usually caused through either acute or chronic trauma. And what's common about this trauma is that specifically young people do not depend on the people or the events that cause this trauma for their survival. We don't have to love the events or the people who cause that trauma, and we're not dependent on their love and on their care. And the second form of trauma is what's called complex developmental childhood trauma, CPTSD. And this is caused through ongoing caregiver failures through our parents or people who we depend on for our survival. And so we need the love, the care from these people. And when they don't give us the care, we can first protest and try to get it. But then if we don't get it, we realize that we may lose the love and the care of these people if we protest too hard and push them too hard away. And we may also think, since they are the adults, right, that have all the knowledge and they should do the right thing, we think actually there is something wrong with us, instead of realizing that it's not that there is something wrong with them, but they're just not capable to provide us with the care and love that we need for our well-being and ultimately for our survival if we are very young. There is something called the ACEs test that are reasons that cause complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or this what we call complex developmental trauma. And you may pause the video and just make a little list which of these 10 forms of adverse childhood experiences you may have experienced. And as I said earlier, NARM is all about the present moment and not re-traumatizing people. But it doesn't mean that we can remember or even talk about events from our adult consciousness that happened in the past. What we're not doing in NARM is to dig deeper and say, well, how did that feel when you experienced that abuse? And we may guide people back in re-experiencing what happened. What we do is we invite people or invite people to do it themselves, to stay present with the feelings that may come up in certain situations that were caused through the trauma in the past. And what we will explore in the next 5 sessions that follow our session 1 is the different forms of developmental trauma that happen through the neglect and the caregiver failures. So I look forward and invite you to come to our next session, session number 2, and then the following sessions. We have 12 in total, and we will continue to record these little videos so you can always join us or skip some sessions if you don't have time, and eventually then complete all the 12 sessions. And then once we finish that, we will start our next 26-week integral relationship training. So thank you very much for participating. I'll see you soon.